I found out my wife inherited a mansion and kept it a secret while we lived paycheck to paycheck. If you'd asked me a month ago, I'd have told you I knew my wife. Maybe not every little thought in her head. No one gets that lucky. But the big stuff, the kind of things you build a life around, I was sure of it. Lauren and I have been married 9 years. We live in a small 2-bedroom rental house on the edge of a town nobody's heard of in South Carolina. It's one of those neighborhoods where every yard has at least one car up on cinder blocks, and you learn to sleep through barking dogs and window AC units. I work HVAC. It's a sweaty, thankless job in the summer. A lot of it involves climbing onto hot roofs where you're practically melting in your boots, cursing whoever thought flat, black shingles in the South were a good idea. But it pays the bills, or at least most of them. Lauren works in a school library. She says it's peaceful, but most nights she comes home looking like she's aged 5 years and 8 hours. Always tired, always quiet. She doesn't complain, not really, just sinks into the couch, kicks off her shoes and gives me a faint smile that says, "This is the best I've got today." We share one car, a 2006 Nissan sedan that shudders every time it goes over 60. Grocery shopping means clipping coupons and choosing whatever's on sale. Chicken thighs, rice, beans. We stretch ground beef like it's gold dust. Once a week we allow ourselves frozen pizza and beer, and that's our version of date night. Still, I always thought we were solid. A team. Lauren would say, "At least we have each other," and I'd believe her. There was something comforting in our predictability. Struggling together felt like some kind of bond. Like no matter how thin the walls of our house were, nothing could get through them if we leaned on each other hard enough. I even turned down a promotion once. The company offered me a supervisory position over in Charleston, better pay, but we'd have to move. New deposit, new rent, new commute for Lauren. Too much, too fast. When I told her I'd said no, she nodded, touched my arm, and said, "That's probably for the best." I felt proud of that decision, like I'd chosen my family over ambition. We weren't rich, but we were safe. Or so I thought. Because all that time, while I was sweating on roofs and Lauren was sighing over overdue library books, my wife had a secret. Not a small one either. A mansion. She inherited a goddamn mansion, and never told me. It was supposed to be a routine job, in and out. Check the unit, replace the capacitor, maybe clean a coil or two. That morning, I threw on my uniform, grabbed a lukewarm travel mug of coffee, and kissed Lauren goodbye like I had 100 times before. "I'll be home by 6, I said. She nodded without looking up from her cereal. "Drive safe." The work order had an address I didn't recognize. A street name that sounded too fancy to be anywhere near our part of town. Turns out it was in Sea Breeze Point, one of those gated coastal neighborhoods I'd only ever seen in real estate ads. I had to give my name at a security booth just to get in. As I pulled up to the house, I actually laughed out loud. Mansion wasn't even the right word. This place looked like something out of a movie. Massive white columns, palm trees lining a circular driveway, wraparound balconies, and floor-to-ceiling windows that reflected the Atlantic like a mirror. And all of it gleaming in that over-sanitized, too-perfect way that screamed wealth. I checked the invoice again, just to be sure I wasn't in the wrong place. Nope. The work order was correct. Customer, Lauren Mayfield. I froze. Mayfield. That was Lauren's maiden name. She hadn't used it in years. I remember teasing her once that Lauren Parker sounded like the name of a sitcom mom. She told me Mayfield sounded too proper. Still, Mayfield wasn't the rarest name in the world. Could be a coincidence. I told myself that 3 times before I got out of the truck. Nobody answered when I rang the doorbell, but the key had been left in a small lockbox with a code provided on the form. I let myself in. The air inside was crisp and cool, the way central air is supposed to feel when it's working right. The entryway had marble floors, a giant chandelier, and a sweeping staircase like something out of a southern romance novel. There were fresh flowers on the foyer table and the faint scent of ocean breeze air freshener. I walked through the house toward the AC panel, but my eyes kept drifting. Every room looked like a catalog spread. Designer furniture, art on the walls, rugs that probably cost more than our car. And then I saw it. On the fireplace mantel in the living room, tucked between a vase and a crystal clock, was a photograph. Lauren, standing on a balcony I could see through the sliding glass doors, wearing a sundress and sunglasses, her arm around a little girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old. Blonde hair, same dimple on the left cheek. The girl looked like Lauren. I took a step back. What the hell was this? I nearly jumped when someone spoke behind me. A woman, maybe in her 60s, coming in through the back entrance with a shopping bag in one hand. "Oh, you must be the AC guy," she said with a smile. "Don't mind me. Mrs. Mayfield only comes by on weekends. I just help keep the place tidy during the week. Mrs. Mayfield comes by on weekends." I nodded slowly, heart thudding in my ears. "Right. Just here for the unit upstairs. Make sure you check the one in the back hallway, too." She said it's been acting up. I mumbled a thanks and headed upstairs, not even pretending to care about the AC anymore. In one of the upstairs offices, or maybe it was a study, I couldn't tell the difference, I saw a leather binder left on a desk. The cover read, "Trust Property Documents." I hesitated, but my hands moved on their own. Inside there were pages of legal text I didn't understand, stamped and notarized. Then I saw it, the name printed in bold at the top of the first page. Lauren Mayfield, sole beneficiary. My mouth went dry. The binder shook in my hands. My wife owned this house, and she never said a word. I didn't sleep much the night I found the photo, or the night after that. I kept trying to find a version of the story where it all made sense. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe Lauren had a cousin with the same name. Maybe the girl in the photo wasn't really hers. Maybe, God, I don't know. But by the third night, the truth was pressing on my chest like a weight I couldn't shake. So I made a decision. On Friday morning, I told my supervisor I had to swing by a site to pick up a tool I'd left behind. He didn't ask questions. I grabbed my truck and drove straight to Seabreeze Point. The security guard at the gate barely looked up this time. I gave the same name, the same follow-up service, and he waved me through like I belonged there. The house looked the same. Picture perfect. I parked down the street and walked up the driveway casually, heart pounding in my throat. I wasn't supposed to be here. I remembered the flower pot by the side stairs. The older woman had said something about using the back door. I lifted the pot. There it was, a single brass key. She hadn't even tried to hide it well. The lock clicked open like it had been waiting for me. Inside, the air was warmer than last time, lived in, comfortable. But it wasn't the cool, untouched showroom it had been days earlier. Now, the place felt different. A blanket thrown over the arm of the couch, a half-full mug of coffee sitting on a coaster, toys, real plastic, loud toys, scattered near the TV, a Barbie shoe, a plush unicorn, crayons. Someone lived here. I moved slowly through the rooms, afraid of what I might find and somehow more afraid of not finding anything. The hallway to the right led me to a small bedroom, painted pale pink, a bookshelf full of children's books, stuffed animals on the bed. One of those name signs in cursive hanging on the wall. Ava. My breath caught in my throat. I stepped back. Lauren had a daughter named Ava? I opened the closet. Clothes, shoes, glittery jackets. The kind of stuff Lauren and I could never afford. I kept moving. Another room, clearly a teenager's. Posters on the walls, sneakers lined up in neat rows, a framed soccer jersey on the wall. There were photos on the dresser. Lauren again, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years, vibrant, relaxed, one arm around the same little girl, the other around a boy who looked maybe 13, her son. And in the background of a few pictures, always standing just behind them, a man, tall, bearded, strong jaw, dark eyes. He had one of those faces you didn't forget. I'd never seen him before in my life. In the master bedroom, I found more of Lauren, her books, her perfume, makeup I didn't recognize, a laptop charger plugged in by the bed. The nightstand had a half-finished novel and a bottle of nail polish. I opened the desk drawer in the small home office and froze. Inside was a second phone. Not hers, not the one I knew. I powered it on, locked. But the wallpaper was a photo, Lauren and the two kids. The tall man stood behind them, arms draped over all three like they were his world. I sank into the desk chair and stared at the screen. Eventually, I found a file cabinet, paperwork, some old bank stuff, legal forms, a thick manila envelope. I pulled it out. Trust documentation, property transfer, dated 4 years ago. Lauren Mayfield listed as the sole beneficiary. There were notes from a lawyer, emails printed and highlighted. She'd been meeting with an attorney behind my back. She'd been listed as the owner of this mansion for years. For 4 years, we'd been eating rice and beans, skipping vacations, worrying about bills. Not just a house, a life, a daughter, a son, a man, and none of it included me. I started watching her. Not in a creepy, obsessive way, at least that's what I told myself, but I had to know. I needed the truth. Every minute I looked at her now, eating dinner at our tiny kitchen table or folding laundry in her fraying pajamas, I kept thinking, who are you? Lauren had started going to the gym more often in the past year. Said it helped her clear her mind. Stress relief, you'd call it, with a tired smile. Except Lauren had never liked the gym. She hated sweating. Always joked that yoga was more her speed. So I waited. One Thursday morning, she left just after 7 a.m. in our old Toyota. I gave it 10 minutes, then got in my truck and followed at a distance. She didn't go to the gym. She got on the highway and drove 25 minutes toward the coast. And then she turned into that neighborhood, Seabreeze Point. My stomach clenched as I watched her slow down and turn into the same driveway I had stood in not even a week ago. She parked, got out, and then the front door opened. A little girl ran out barefoot across the porch and launched herself into Lauren's arms. Lauren laughed, a full, bright sound I hadn't heard from her in years. She kissed the girl's forehead and carried her inside like it was the most natural thing in the world, like it was home. I sat there in my truck, staring through the windshield, the same image burning into my mind over and over, my wife, holding a child, walking into a house I didn't know existed, a life I had no part in. She stayed there for hours. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wasn't ready. I needed more than just a suspicion. I needed something that couldn't be twisted or explained away. So I tried a different route. That weekend, I met up with Rachel, Lauren's old friend from work. They used to get coffee once a month, though I hadn't seen Rachel in a while. We met at a diner. I kept it casual at first, small talk. Then I said it. Do you know anything about Lauren's family? Rachel raised an eyebrow. Which family? I blinked. What's that supposed to mean? She gave me a tight smile and sipped her coffee. You never asked much about her past, did you? I thought I knew her, I said. Rachel didn't answer right away. She just looked at me like I was a little boy who'd lost his mom in the supermarket. Then she leaned forward and said, David, Lauren's always been good at putting people at ease, making them see what they want to see. So she's been lying to me? Rachel shrugged. I didn't say that. But you've been married to her for 9 years, and you still don't know what her favorite movie is? That hit me harder than it should have. I walked out of that diner with 1,000 memories playing in my head. Her vague stories about a sick aunt, her sudden weekend trips, her refusal to take on debt or move, always so cautious, about money, about the future. She said it was fear. Now I knew it was strategy. And behind it all, there was a house, a girl named Ava, and a life that didn't include me. I waited until the kids were at their grandmother's. The house was quiet, small again, just like it had always been. Lauren came home from work, acting like nothing was wrong. She dropped her bag by the door, poured herself some water, and didn't notice me sitting at the kitchen table with the folder in front of me. I didn't bother with small talk. What can you tell me about this? I asked, sliding a photo across the table. It was her, standing on the balcony of a white mansion, holding a little girl no older than 7. Both of them wore sunglasses, smiling. The ocean glittered behind them. Lauren froze. Slowly, she walked over and sat down across from me. I saw her fingers trembling on her lap. I pulled out another document, a copy of a trust deed, her name, her signature, 4 years old. You were going to tell me? I asked quietly. She was silent for a long moment. 5 seconds. 10. I could hear the faucet dripping, the old clock ticking in the next room. Then she looked up sharply and whispered, You don't understand. I do. You've been lying to me for years. You have a house, kids. I clenched my fists. You've been living a double life, Lauren, without me. Then she exploded. That house isn't for you. That life isn't for you. She stood up, tears and anger flooding her eyes. You think I wanted this? You think I planned it? I think you made a choice. Before all this, there was Adam. We were together. For a long time. I got pregnant. I had a son. It was messy, painful, toxic. I left. I ran away. I wanted a fresh start. She slumped back down, voice softening. And then my aunt died. She left me that house. I went there to sort out the papers. And Adam was there too. He moved here for work. We started talking again, for Luke, for the kids. The little girl, Ava, she's his too. We aren't a couple, we're just family. I wanted my kids to know their father, to have roots. Something I never had. I heard the words, but they barely registered. The meaning didn't fit inside my head. So where does that leave me? I asked. She lifted her head. You were my lifeline, my breath of fresh air, my chance at normal, without pain, without the past. But the past doesn't disappear, it comes back, she cried, for real. I didn't doubt her tears, but I didn't care. You're leaving? I didn't answer. I walked out, only it wasn't our home anymore, and I wasn't her husband. Maybe I never was. I found myself crashing at Mike's place, sleeping on a beaten-up couch in his cluttered trailer. The smell of oil and old pizza lingered in the air, a far cry from the quiet life Lauren and I once tried to build. Divorce papers sat heavy in my backpack. I'd filed them the day after I left, but signing those papers didn't make the pain any less real. It was like losing not just my wife, but the version of love I thought I knew. Mike gave me a hard look one afternoon while we worked on an AC unit under the blazing South Carolina sun. You were always too trusting, man. Always gave her the benefit of the doubt. I didn't argue. Maybe he was right. Maybe I'd been blind. The following week I met with the lawyer. The office was cold and sterile, no room for emotions. Mr. Taylor, the attorney said, the mansion is part of a trust that predates your marriage. You have no legal claim to the property. I nodded slowly, swallowing the lump in my throat. So it's all hers. Legally and financially, correct. The truth hit harder than I expected. It wasn't just a betrayal of trust. It was the collapse of everything I believed in. That night, I slept in my old car, parked on the edge of a gas station lot. The cramped space felt suffocating, but it was better than feeling invisible in my own home. I thought about Lauren, about the life we shared, or thought we shared. And I realized sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who can hurt you the most. 6 months later, my phone rang out of the blue. A calm but tired voice said, "Are you David Hill? Lauren listed you as an emergency contact." My heart dropped. I hadn't heard from Lauren in months. Turns out she had run off with Adam, leaving the kids behind. The social services office smelled of stale coffee and paperwork. I sat across from a weary caseworker who looked at me with a mixture of sympathy and exhaustion. Ava and Josh are in protective custody, she explained gently. They've been waiting for someone responsible to step up. At first I hesitated. These kids weren't mine, at least not legally. But as I stared at their photos, something inside me shifted. Days were hard at first. Ava, shy and distant, Josh, guarded and silent. But slowly, walls came down. We began to build a new kind of family. I filed the custody papers, determined to give them the life they deserved. Now I sit on the veranda of the mansion, the very place Lauren hid from me for so long. The sun rises over the ocean, casting gold across the lawn where Ava and Josh run and laugh. Sometimes, life gives you the truth, and it's the only solid ground you'll ever need.